no man is an island. Spoiler alert. Movie review. I love you. Movie Together. This movie stars Dave Franco and Alison Brie, which are a real-life couple. Dave Franco plays a character of Tim, and Alison Brie plays a character of Millie. Tim, musician, he's not very good at what he does. He sucks, he stinks, he's not making much money. Millie, the breadwinner, she's a teacher. She loves him for reasons we don't really know yet. But let's get into the movie. So the movie begins with these two dogs, right? Romulus and Remus. They fall down a hole. They're incredibly thirsty because they haven't gotten laid in a year. They drink up the water, and lo and behold, they become sticky. They become stuck together, if you will, and they cannot separate. They become so together, guys. They become one entity. A supra dog of some sort.
All right, now fast forward, next scene in the movie, they're in some sort of house party. There's some couple. Tim and Millie are going away somewhere. They're moving away together as this new couple. Let's try it again. Okay.
So we fast forward in the movie. Now we're in someone's house. There's some sort of house party going on. Maybe a going away party for Tim and Millie. They're going to some small town to figure out what they're going to do together. But also Millie got a job in the small town because she is a breadwinner after all. And Tim is just sort of tagging along because, well, he's got nothing much going on for him other than the fact that he's dating Millie. Now, an important part of this scene is that Millie proposes to Tim in front of all their friends and loved ones. And he doesn't say yes, but he doesn't say no either, which leaves him in this strange situation that's very embarrassing for Millie for obvious reasons. Okay, so there's a scene after the house party where Tim and Millie are laying in their bed, as couples do. And she's obviously a little hurt for good reason for his lack of a response, not really giving Millie the answer she was looking for to this question. This very important question most couples, I feel long-term couples would eventually start asking after a number of years. We also learn that they haven't, in quite a while. So they're essentially just really good friends or roommates. So it turns out that Tim is dating his hot sister. Millie is actually his sister. No, I'm just kidding. That's not the case. So here's the next scene in the movie. So now they're, moving towards this new house, this small town where Millie's about to make a bunch of money, furthering her career. And hopefully as a couple, they'll, be able to settle down and maybe make a family. Now there's a scene in the house where Tim is cleaning some sort of light fixture. He opens the light fixture, and you know what comes out? A rat king, guys. Praise God. That's right, a rat king. Some of you may be thinking, Sonny, what is a rat king? Now, a rat king is a collection of rats who, for one reason or another, have become intertwined into some sort of Transformer-like Optimus Prime of rats. So Tim, after he releases the Rat King from the light fixture, has another flashback. One of which where he remembers this disgusting odor emanating from his parents' room. Now, most people, if they smelled something disgusting emanating from their parents' room, would think, oh, they're probably doing the dirty, the funky, if you will. But it turns out his father had been dead for weeks, if not months, and his mother was just laying next to this corpse. Again, till death do us part, guys. See how disgusting this stuff is? You see how disgusting marriage is, guys? So, after they move into this house and they're fixing it up or whatever, putting their boxes where it needs to be, they get a knock on the door, and who's it? The weird neighbor who's welcoming in this new couple into the neighborhood to see who they are and what they're about. The neighbor, by the way, is also the principal working in the school Millie's teaching at. Remember that. He's the principal. So Tim and Millie decide to go hiking, as couples usually do. They go into the woods together. Now, as they're walking in the woods, this couple, they fall into a hole. And as they're in the hole, Tim realizes, oh, we need to drink some water. For starters, they're very thirsty because, like the dogs earlier, Romulus and Remus, they haven't, in quite a while. So maybe a drink of water might help them, quench this thirst, if you will. Maybe a little jumpstart what's been lacking for quite a while. Maybe it'll help them, get the engines going again, the fluids, if you will. So they drink the water, they have their conversation. They talk about how embarrassing it was at that going away party and how Tim kind of left her hanging, She wants to start like a family, understandably so. She's got a career going. She's not getting any younger, She wants something to happen. But Tim is a loser. Tim is a musician, but he doesn't make any money. It makes you wonder throughout the film why she's even with this guy. But, everyone's free to be with whoever they want to be, guys. That's the beauty of living in an open and free society. If you want to date a loser, you're free to be with a loser. If you want to be with a bum, you can be with a bum. But you can't complain about it, though. That's the beauty of it all. You got to stand by your decisions, guys. Anyways, moving on. Stickiness. So this is where things get kind of strange in the movie. Turns out the water they drank changes them in a way. It makes them almost irresistible to each other. They become drawn to each other. Always. At any time of day. They can't help thinking about each other. They become obsessed with each other, which is quite a difference from what they were working with before. I mean, they were in quite a while. And now they can't help but all the time. Case in point is an amazing scene where Millie is at school. Now Tim, this hopeless loser, who's always obsessing over her because he's an angsty, anxious kind of weird guy. So he goes to the school instead of an audition of some sort. I don't know, who cares? But he goes to the school. He meets Millie there. They go into the stall, all right? They go into a washroom stall and they do the dirty over and over and over. But here's the catch, guys. Remember the stickiness, the water, and how it makes you all drawn to each other? So as they're going like this, right? A lot going like this. Turns out, now they got Chinese finger traps. He can't leave. He's stuck inside of her. Now some of you may be thinking, wow, I wonder what that feels like. But yeah, he's stuck inside of her. And here's the great part of that movie that made me wince. I mean, I've seen a lot of movies, so I've been desensitized to a lot of grotesque things that you see on the screen. But there's this amazing scene where you can see with your own eyes his penis trying to just remove itself from her vaginal labia, from her vaginal walls, from her vaginal trap. His penis is trying, in a vain attempt, trying to remove itself from her vaginal walls. And then you just hear just almost this tear. And everybody in the cinema just winced, because we all know what that would feel like, to have a live circumcision, to be circumcised as you're completing coitus. Here's the best part. So while they're doing that, trying to remove themselves from coitus, a child walks into the washroom, sees that there's 2 pair of legs under the stall, And the kid's a snitch, kids are going to be snitching. So he goes outside and gets the principal, the neighbor. So the principal comes into the washroom, knocks on the stall, asking if Millie's okay. Tim, of course, stands on the toilet as he does. Millie walks out, blood dripping down her inner thigh because of the circumcision that just occurred during coitus. And the principal sees it and assumes, oh, maybe Millie's just going through that time of the month. Maybe Millie is just being a woman. So he tells her politely, Millie, you might want to clean yourself up. And as the principal walks out, he sees Tim's dirty musician thrift store shoes come down the toilet and touch the floor. And at that point, you realize, oh, she's in a lot of trouble. Next scene. Okay, so this water stuff, the water that makes them all sticky and together, they realize, oh, this is a bit of a problem. They're physically drawn to each other even when they're not even awake. There's scenes in the movie where they could just be sitting or lying somewhere and the other partner could be asleep and they're just physically just moving, not even under their own volition towards this other person. That can be a problem, guys. That's a problem. It becomes so much of a problem, guys. They get under each other's skin. Most couples can relate to that. This is where like the body horror of this body horror genre comes in. So Millie decides, you know what? We're going to have to cut each other free. So there's another scene where she's got like this saw, and she's just going at it and at it and at it. Another wince-like, moment in the cinema. Very good at what they do. Very, very good at what they do. Now, we begin to start unraveling the mystery behind this water when Millie visits her principal or her boss in his home, and she realizes he used to have a partner. It's implied that maybe he passed away, died of some sort of illness maybe. But during the conversation, he talks about this thing called Plato Symposium. For some of the readers out there, you'll know it is a famous piece of literature, a book on the philosophy of love and what that means. And of course, in the book, you have different levels of love, Plato and his friends go through every different level where you get like, the famous one that everybody knows about is the platonic level. And then you have like the physical level and everything in between. But there's an interesting part in that book from this other guy, this comedian, if you will, the father of comedy, by the name of Aristophanes. Aristophanes' take on love was that some time ago, men and women, or men and men, or women and women were these holistic beings. We were all one at one point. And for one reason or another, the gods punished us, splitting us, and leaving us in this constant need of wanting to return back to our unitary, if you will, state, where we were whole and one as this being. We're both man and woman, if you will, at the same time. This is where things get interesting, because she realizes, oh, like this is actually happening to us. This is this physical manifestation of where my partner and I are becoming one being. Maybe it has to do with this water. Tim, of course, does some sleuthing. He realizes, oh, like other couples have fallen down that same well or hole, if you will, and have just disappeared, never to be seen again. Now, in order to figure out what's going on, Tim and Millie decide to go down that hole again, and they realize, oh, like what you see down there are these like steeples, if you will. It almost looks like a makeshift chapel used to be down that hole. There's also a bell, a very large bell, and there was some sort of light or eye. And then they begin to see other creatures, not creatures, but they see people who look like they've not quite become one person. These like physical abominations, if you will, of what they were supposed to be, which was this one holistic type of being. Fast forward again, they realized, oh, the principal at the school was the head of some sort of cult or church where during marriage ceremonies they would drink said water with their partner and then eventually, become one being. And then you see in the movie, the principal's partner didn't, in fact, die or pass away. He actually fused with his partner and they became this one thing, this one homogenous being, whereby they almost share the same, well, they do, they share the same consciousness and thoughts, where you have these two people in one body. Wow. So, it turns out Tim and Millie, they realize the only way to defeat this thirst, if you will, is if one of them dies and the other one lives. But they love each other so much, they decide, you know what? Let's just become one person. And then Tim and Millie, who were brother and sister, okay? Tim is dating his sister Millie. They fuse into one and become Elliot Page. I mean, if you're a really good assassin, like let's say like that's your job, no one will know you did your job. Does that make any sense? Like, if you're good at like committing like assassinations, no one will know that it was an assassination. You get it? Get it, boys and girls? That's the key, boys and girls. If you want to commit an assassination, no one will know it was an assassination. They'll just think it was a murder or an accidental death or some crime of passion. Or what you do, if you're really good at your job as an assassin, you get somebody else to commit the crime who's, I don't know, mentally unwell or imbalanced. So it looks like. Yeah, that's the best way to do it. Yeah, because you need a tool, right? And that's the whole movie. On Together. I love you. Now, for our next segment, character analysis. The character we will be analyzing today is one Sonny Haynes. Some of you may be wondering, why would we care about one Sonny Haynes? Because he is quite the character. Now, he hasn't been featured in any films or movies or TV series, but I feel like as an individual, I think we should try to give this guy a bit of a cut, to try to figure out who he is and what makes him tick, some of his flaws, if you will, some of his flaws, if you will, and some of his strengths, if you will, his history, who he is, what he's into, and why he is the way he is. Let's start. Now, Sonny Haynes, who is he? Well, we know he's male, right? So Sonny's a male, guys. Okay, he's about 6 feet tall, right? 6 feet. He's got some tan skin, some very tan, clear skin, by the way. Tan, clear skin. His teeth aren't too bad, but we can work on the teeth. The teeth can be better. The teeth can be better. What else we got here? That's the physical, okay? So he's about 6 feet, tan, clear skin. Teeth can be better. His weight, not too bad. Pretty good. He's actually in pretty good shape, guys. I'd say, yeah, he's actually in pretty good shape. Pretty good pretty good shape. Now, how old is Sonny? You may be asking. Sonny is the youngest man alive. That's his age. So, the youngest man alive. That's how old Sonny is. Now, let's go into his personality. Okay? Who is Sonny? Is he outgoing? Is he very laid back, introverted? I would say he's somewhere in the middle, depending on who you are in the context. If he likes you, he'll talk to you. He'll approach you. He'll entertain you in conversation, if you will. If he doesn't like you, he won't do any of those things. Does that mean he's a shy, introverted person? No. It just means he doesn't like you. There's nothing he sees in you that is worth pursuing. That's all that means. Yes, that's all that means. Now, what else is there? What else is there about Sonny we can delve into? Is he very, what is Sonny? Who is Sonny? What is he into? Does that really tell you who he is? Probably not. He seems to be obsessed with this Lizzie Borden character for reasons we don't really understand yet. Yeah? Is he a lover? Yeah, I think he is. I think Sonny's the type of person who can fall in love with a person forever, and they'll never know how much he loves this person. That's Sonny. Probably eats him alive, doesn't it? To know he can never, ever be with this person. To be constantly in a state of need and want. Not unlike that couple. But that's a bit different, though. The couple, even though they weren't, and they weren't really connecting for a while. At least they still had each other in the same vicinity. But this Sonny guy, he's just constantly in a state of need, all by himself. I think he's on an island, this guy. Sonny's definitely on an island. I think that makes him, though. Some people would say he's a bit sarcastic. Sometimes he's very sarcastic. Is he rude? I don't think this guy is rude. I don't think he goes out of his way to give someone a bad time. But it does come out sometimes because he's always in a state of need. Is he fun? I think he's a bit funny. I think some people would say in conversation, yeah, he is. He can be a bit cheeky. What else about his personality, though? His character traits can really get at. Is he selfish? I would say to a certain degree, yes. But maybe that's how I don't know what he was. I think he ended up like that, become more and more selfish just because the need part, he's always in a state of need. What if we gave him that drink of water, though? I wonder who he would be drawn to. Other character traits about Sonny. Is he... Of the emotions, what is he? Is he like depressive? Is he just like a bummer to be around? I wouldn't say so. He doesn't seem like the type to just unload all his baggage on someone. Make his misery their misery. I don't think he does that. Nah. Is he very knowledgeable? He sounds like he's very he sounds like he knows a bunch of things. Maybe he pretends to, but I think he does. He might have some insight on some things, which could be beneficial to a lot of people. Maybe not. Maybe so. I don't know. Maybe, but I feel like he's got some insight on some things. You know. Hmm. So he's kind of funny. He's always in a state of need, not unlike that couple, because he does love. I know that for sure. And when he does, it's kind of intense, but you just don't see it. It's just under the surface, which probably results in very strange behaviors on his part. You're just wondering, what's going on with Sonny right now? Why is he in a way, why is he doing what he's doing? It's a bit odd. Yeah. So yeah, so he loves intensely. If he loves you, if he likes you, for one reason or another, we haven't figured it out why. But if he does, he's in it for the long haul. Sort of like that movie, Together. Is he? Oh, he's very. Oh, this dude's a horn dog, guys. He's lust doesn't even begin to describe his desires. But again, I feel like that might be related to his state of need. You know. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's who he is. Maybe this guy just is. He's just a well of desires, guys. Or it could just be because he hasn't found that the other dog yet, or his Millie, if you will, someone he could just latch onto like a parasite, like Tim does. This useless, uh, no good, talentless hack of a musician, just sucking on Millie, like a parasite. Because Millie's the breadwinner after all. She's the teacher, she's smart. She's also very realistic. Tim, he's not going to become anything. We all know that. But she loves him for some reason. So much so that she proposes to him, guys. Imagine. She loves this guy so much. She proposes to him, and she's like, oh my God, I need to make a baby, a family with this guy who has no discernible skills, guys. Imagine. Isn't that weird? How visceral this feeling of love is? Plato wrote a whole book on it, trying to figure it out. Like why are people attracted to the people they're attracted to? We all know it. We all know people in our own lives. You're like, why is this person with this person? For better or for worse, but it is what it is, right? So yeah, so that's Sonny. He's kind of funny, He's very lonely, but you wouldn't know it. And then he acts out in very strange ways. Maybe because of that. Maybe other reasons. I don't know. Is he selfish? A little, but understandably so. Is he obsessed with people? Only the ones that he cares about. Yeah. He likes himself too. He loves seeing himself. He's fascinated by that. He's kind of smart, kind of intelligent. What else is there? Oh, he's actually he's physically fit. That isn't really a personality trait. I guess it ties into more of just like discipline. And he's the youngest man alive. That could be part of it. Is he stunted emotionally? Maybe a little, but who isn't? What else is there about Sonny? What are some of his weaknesses? I think he has a blind eye to really poo-poo people, guys. Really caca, waste, if you will, useless individuals. I think he tolerates them too much. You know, that's where his blind eye is. Tolerating useless poo-poo people. But other than that, I don't see any discernible weaknesses that would, put him at such a disadvantage. Most people would be like, oh, this guy might have like a disorder. Definitely not. Seems like a person like any other. Does he have like addictions, if you will? Maybe that would fall into the lust part, that well. But is it a problem? I don't know. I don't know. You know. So yeah, it's sunny. I'm gonna forgo the "Do I Know You" segment because we're trying to figure out who this guy is. So do we know? Do we know Sunny? Is the question we should all be asking ourselves. Who is this guy?